Today, we're diving into the incredible story of a lost masterpiece of science. We're talking about a magnificent map etched into solid silver that was born from one of the most unlikely partnerships in all of history. A Muslim cartographer, a Christian king, and the entire known world etched in silver. This is the story of a truly magnificent object, a revolutionary idea, and the one man who brought them all together, right before it all just vanished. So, at the very heart of our story is this physical object that just doesn't exist anymore. A massive, world-changing map that was, literally lost to history. I mean, just try to imagine that for a second. This wasn't some sketch on paper. We're talking about a 2-meter-wide disc of solid silver engraved with the known world. It was real, and then it was gone, probably melted down for the metal. To even begin to understand how something so monumental was created, we first have to understand the minds that came up with it. You see, it all started with two men, and their partnership, well, it crossed every imaginable line: culture, faith, politics. It was basically as revolutionary as the map they were trying to create. So on one side, you've got Roger II, a Christian Norman king ruling Sicily. And on the other, you have Al-Idrisi, this brilliant Muslim geographer who basically carried a mental atlas in his head from all his travels. What on earth could possibly bring these two together? Well, it was a shared, restless ambition to map the world based on fact, not fantasy. And look, this couldn't have happened just anywhere. 12th century Sicily was special. It was a true melting pot. You had Christian rulers who employed Muslim administrators, and you could hear Arabic, Latin, and Greek spoken in the same marketplace. King Roger's court was famous for its tolerance and its intellectual curiosity, which made it the absolute perfect incubator for a project this ambitious. All right, so with the king's money and the scholar's genius, the work began. But this wasn't going to be some quick sketch. No, this was an epic undertaking of scientific rigor that would end up spanning more than a decade. 15 years. Just let that sink in. That's how long Al-Idrisi and his team dedicated to this single project. This wasn't just drawing lines on a map. It was a relentless, painstaking pursuit of accurate, verifiable data in an age that was full of myth and hearsay. So how'd they do it? Well, Al-Idrisi's method was absolutely revolutionary for its time. He didn't just sit around reading old books. No way. He went out and interviewed travelers fresh off their voyages, and then he'd cross-reference their stories to filter out all the exaggerations. He studied older maps, sure, but with a super critical eye, refusing to just copy the mistakes of the past. The guy was basically a data scientist, 900 years ahead of his time. And the final creation? It was so much more than just a map. The silver disc itself was known as the Tabula Rogeriana, or the Map of Roger. But it also came with an encyclopedia, a massive book detailing everything they had learned about all these different regions, their climates, their trade routes, their cultures. It was a complete geographic intelligence report for the 12th century. The final result of all this work was a view of the world that was not only incredibly accurate, but it was also deeply challenging to the way most Europeans saw everything. Because, honestly, when you first look at a reconstruction of Al-Idrisi's map, you're probably going to think, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Everything just seems flipped. But here's the thing. It wasn't a mistake at all. It was a completely deliberate choice. Putting south at the top was a common practice in Islamic cartography back then. And this orientation, it put Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and the heart of the Islamic world in a position of prominence. It was a clear, quiet statement about one's place in the world. And to really appreciate what Al-Idrisi did, you have to look at what he didn't do. Most European maps from that era were basically works of fantasy. Uncharted waters were filled with sea monsters, coastlines were based on biblical stories, and entire continents were just pure guesswork. Al-Idrisi's map was the complete opposite. It was scientific. It was practical. It showed coastlines, rivers, and trade routes with a precision that was just unheard of. And it wasn't a fluke. His map remained one of the most accurate depictions of the world for the next 300 years. Think about that. Okay, so a giant silver map that was melted down centuries ago. Why does it still matter? Why should we care today? What exactly is its legacy? Well, the legacy of the Tabula Rogeriana isn't really about a lost object. It's about a powerful idea. It's proof that knowledge thrives at the intersection of cultures, not in isolation. It's a testament to an era where Muslim scholarship was a pioneering scientific force. And maybe most of all, it shows that when a Christian king and a Muslim scholar can actually unite in the pursuit of truth, they can create something that outlasts entire empires. I mean, today we have a map of the entire world in our pocket. It's instant, and it seems perfect. But Al-Idrisi's 15-year quest wasn't about convenience. It was about a deep, patient, and humble search for the truth. And it kind of leaves us with a big question. In our age of instant information, what do we lose when we stop chasing truth? Not for profit or for power, but for the simple, profound dignity of just knowing our world?